Greetings, welcome back to Black Bear News, where we are discussing the ongoing climate crisis, the ongoing and ever worsening climate crisis. I was having coffee with a friend of mine this morning, and we got to cover all kinds of subjects, but she's been doing a lot of traveling around the state of California and also the Southwest. And one of the things we discussed that I had no idea about, if you live in California, you know where Big Bear Lake is. Big Bear is a mountainous area near Los Angeles where a lot of people go ski. And Big Bear Lake is a big, vacation / tourist-y kind of destination, albeit out in the mountains, out in the woods. So we were talking about Big Bear Lake, and she said, yeah, I went out to Big Bear Lake and it is dried up. It's gone. This is a huge lake. And I was like, no way. And she was like, yes way. And so I searched it, and there was a video on YouTube showing Big Bear Lake basically dried up. This huge natural body of water that is in Southern California is all but gone. Although I did hear that they got a foot of snow in Big Bear in the last couple of days. We had a big storm come through, and I think we're having another one come through tomorrow. So they got a bunch of snow. That's encouraging. Hopefully, maybe they'll get some water back up there. I don't know, but I'm going to link this video of Big Bear Lake dried up. If anybody lives in the Southern California area, I don't know if you have heard this either, or heard of this or knew that this was happening. Yet another sign that we are in deep, deep trouble. And the thing that is the most troubling about this news, and all of the things that I bring you every day, and all of the things that climate scientists talk about every day, is this is not a phase. This is not a climate will change, then it'll change back. This is evidence that the climate crisis is getting worse by the day, worse by the year, worse by the hour, whatever increment of time you want to use. It's getting worse, and it's going to continue getting worse at most likely an exponential rate. Unfortunately, at an exponential rate. Again, if you want evidence of climate change, just open your eyes and look at evidence, look at things around you. We also talked about the drying up of the Colorado River, the fact that there has been record low snowpack in the Rockies, Utah, Colorado. There's also record low snowpack in California, in the California mountains, Sierra Nevadas, etc., Cascades, etc. There's record low snowpack all over the west of the U.S., and it is affecting the aquifers. It is affecting the availability of water all over the area. I wanted to lead with this story. By the way, a lot of you were complaining about, or not a lot, but a few people were complaining about the mic being low. I turned it up a little bit. Hopefully it's better for you. If I turn it up anymore, it's going to start distorting, and there's nothing worse than a nasty distorted microphone, even if it's, like I can't sacrifice, volume or sound quality for volume. Sorry. So it's a little bit louder and hopefully clearer still. This is from Truth Out. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez proposes 70% tax on mega rich to pay for the Green New Deal. Awesome. Wonderful. Beautiful. How about using this tax to also pay for Medicare for all? How about taxing the corporations who are responsible for climate change to clean up climate change? Not just the mega wealthy. We need to stop subsidizing huge corporations, the Walmarts, the fossil fuel industry, the agricultural industry. You need to stop subsidizing those industries and turn it around and start taxing them and make them pay for the damage that they are doing. And we should also be shutting down certain companies, Monsanto, Dow, et cetera, et cetera. These companies need to go. Newly elected Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the youngest woman ever elected to U.S. Congress, told Anderson Cooper that high tax rates on the super rich would help fund the ambitious plan to combat the threat of climate change known as the Green New Deal. In an upcoming 60-minute interview set to air this Sunday, the 29-year-old Democratic socialist says the Green New Deal, which aims to eliminate carbon emissions within 12 years, is going to require a rapid change that we don't even conceive as possible right now. So, like her or not, at least she's getting closer to the language. And I'm going to say, whether the feasibility of this plan ever comes to fruition or whether this actually gets done, is all important, obviously, to actually doing anything about anything. But the fact that somebody is talking about this, the fact that somebody is using this language that we need to rapidly reconstruct our economy and our lifestyles in 12 years to mitigate climate change, that they're using the science and they're bringing it to politics. The fact that somebody is actually doing that and speaking on this is a really, really good thing. I can't state enough how important it is to at least have somebody talking about this, have headlines, saying this is what we need to do. This is what the problem is. This is how bad it is. This is what we need to do. Very simple, language, talking, words, communication. Nobody was doing that in the last election cycle except for Bernie Sanders. And mostly what he was saying was just a big blanket, climate change is a problem. So here we have specific things being talked about. And don't forget that there used to be a corporate / wealth tax of up to 90% back in the day. So she's using this, she's using an old idea that was actually in place. To pay for the deal, Ocasio-Cortez pointed out to the progressive tax rate system in the 1960s and proposed the idea of tax rates as high as 70% on the super rich. You look at our tax rates back in the 60s, and when you have a progressive tax rate system, your tax rate, let's say from 0 to 75,000, blah, blah, blah. Once you get to the top, you go to tax rates as high as 60 or 70%. Cooper replied that she was proposing a radical agenda compared to the way politics is done right now. Yes, of course. I think that it only has ever been radicals that have changed this country, Ocasio-Cortez replied. Abraham Lincoln made the radical decision to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. Franklin Delano Roosevelt made the radical decision to embark on establishing programs like Social Security. That is radical. Exactly. These things were radical. A lot of people said, no, you can't do that. And they said, we're doing it. Asked if she calls herself a radical. If that's what radical means, call me a radical. Okay, so there you go. And then they talk about really stupid stuff about her, dancing video, which is fine. She dances great. She happens to be beautiful on top of smart. So, hey, more power to you, Ocasio-Cortez. Where are we going next? I want to quickly touch on this article that I believe, who linked this for me? Was it Proudhon? I like to call her Proud Hun. I think it was her. I'm not sure. Has peak diesel arrived? The data doesn't look good. So I was talking about talking about fracking the other day, and she was pointing out that that produces light crude, which is not useful for the primary driver of a lot of shipping and industry, which is diesel. Has peak diesel arrived? Well, if so, it is terrible news for the automobile and trucking industry as well as the overall economy. I came across this information from an article written by Antonio Turiel on the Oil Crash website. So moving down, 6 years ago, we commented on the same blog. When is this from? This is from December 11th, 2018. We commented on the same blog 6 years ago. All the fuels derived from oil diesel was the one that would probably see its production decline first. The reason why diesel production was likely to recede before that of, for example, gasoline had to do with the fall in conventional crude oil production since 2005. And the increasing weight of the so-called unconventional oils, bad substitutes not always suitable to produce diesel. with the data of 2012. Of that, I wrote the peak of diesel. At the time, there was a certain stagnation of diesel production, but it seemed to be too soon to venture if it was final or if it would still be overcome. I reviewed the issue in 2015. The new data from 2015 showed that in 2012, there had really been no peaking, although diesel production had grown less strongly if we compared it with the previous historical rate, and even the last 18 months of the period studied at that time showed a certain stagnation. Now it has been another 3 years, and it's a good time to look at the data and see what happened. It looks like it's going down, like straight down in the last year or even 6 months. As seen in the graph, the year 2015 marked the maximum so far. There had not been such a marked drop in production since the crisis of 2008-2009, but in the case of the fall of 2015, we find that 1, there has not been a serious global economic recession. 2, the descent is lasting longer, and 3, the levels of diesel production show no sign of recovery, although it is still a little early to ensure that the peak of diesel has occurred. Stagnation, even falling, is starting to drag on for too long to be ignored. And global production of fuel since 2007 is on a steady decline, steady walk down the mountain. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I just wanted to touch on this lightly. I'm going to link it so y'all can get more deeply into the information if you like. I certainly hope that diesel has peaked. We need less fossil fuels. We need fossil fuels to be way more difficult to get. Logistically and financially, we need, financial yokes on the production, the exploration, and all that of diesel fuel. Moving on to this article from Counterpunch from January 4th with a very obvious title, "It's time to get serious about CO2 pollution." Do you think so, Jack Tucholsky? 50 years ago, a bipartisan U.S. Congress enacted novel, far-reaching legislation that changed our country and the world for the better. At that time, the Clean Water Act and Clean Air Act were new, untested approaches to combating pollution. New, untested approaches. Nobody knew how it was going to work or what was going to happen. The U.S. had a huge problem in the 1970s. Rivers regularly caught fire. Many cities were choked with air pollution. These new laws enshrined a new but logical principle. Polluters should control, and if necessary, pay for the damage they cause to human health and natural resources. For many decades, polluters had a free ride, which they pretty much, they do for the most part today. And if they do pollute something, it's a financial slap on the wrist that doesn't even dent the profits they're making. They dumped pollution in our air, water with impunity. Our kids got sick from unchecked auto exhaust. Our rivers caught fire because they were laden with oil. These environmental laws have stayed on the books for over 5 decades because they work. Today, our waters are much cleaner, our air far less polluted. Missoula, Montana is a great case in point. Those who lived there in the 1970s and 80s will remember how bad our air quality was and how much better it is today. I grew up in the Los Angeles basin in the 70s and 80s, and it was super bad. Much better today, but actually getting a little bit worse, as I've noticed in the last year or two. The Clark Fork River is much healthier now that mining wastes are being cleaned up. These changes did not occur voluntarily. Environmental regulations required tougher standards for air pollution. Mining companies had to pay for the pollution they caused to the Clark Fork. Today, many countries around the world seek to emulate our environmental laws. They are one of the gifts American democracy has given to the world, a legacy we should be proud of. Now we are faced with a new type of pollution. Carbon dioxide and other pollutants are accumulating in the atmosphere. You don't say. These accumulations have already contributed to serious problems. For example, record-breaking fires in California, more powerful hurricanes in Texas and Florida. Recently, a group of Republicans and Democrats introduced the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend. Did Void link this for me? I think he did. This bold legislation uses a market-based approach to address the problem of CO2 pollution. Large corporations will be required to account for and pay for their carbon pollution. So this was introduced, maybe not passed, probably not passed yet. Each American household will receive a monthly dividend from the funds collected from polluters that for most Americans will more than offset any increases in energy costs. The legislation will spur American innovation in everything from building design to electric cars, further boosting the economy. Our carbon emissions will drop significantly, a fact our children and grandchildren will appreciate in years to come. So this is good news. This is great. I hope this passes. I hope it actually comes to fruition. You know, it would be a really great thing. Here's a radical idea. Take half of the military budget and say, we don't really need this. We don't need over 700 billion, almost $800 billion every year to fund the military. What if we took half of that budget and fought climate change? Like, what is it? If you could cure global hunger or homelessness, I forget which one, for like $30 billion. So for a fraction of half of the military budget, you could wipe out homelessness. Yeah. So with half of the military budget, you could probably make a really large dent in the problem of climate change. And also, if you tax the living hell out of the people that are polluting, possibly maybe driving them out of business, which would be that would be the highest outcome of that, the best outcome. You could probably do a lot to start turning around the damage that we are doing to the earth. Will that happen? As the magic 8 ball in my head might say, signs point to no, but I'm hoping that it does. And I hope that they keep trying. Thank you so much for your ears, your eyes, and your conscience. If you would like to support this channel, you can do so at the links below. Until next time, peace.